Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Ethereal, for having us. Super excited to be hosting this panel with Vitalik Buterin, the creator and co-founder of Ethereum, and I am Miyaguchi, the executive director of the Ethereum Foundation, and I am Camila, the founder of the Defiant and author of The Infinite Machine. So welcome and thank you, wonderful panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing this.
Yeah, okay, so I wasn't planning on starting this conversation this way, but I feel like we just need to talk about what's going on with the ETH price. It is just absolutely blowing up. So, ETH is up 10 times in the past year, blowing through 3,000. Forbes is calling you, Vitalik, the youngest crypto billionaire.
I don't think that's true.
No?
I don't know, at least, I think Hayden got there before me. I'm sure other people as well. But
not that you're the youngest. I mean, not that you're a billionaire, but it's not true that you're the youngest.
Right.
Right. I mean, yeah, regardless. I mean, pretty kind of impressive metrics. So first off, how does it feel to just see this kind of rocket ship taking off?
I think both the price and just all of the other kinds of attention that Ethereum has been getting recently is just a good sign of confidence by the community and by just more and more people from outside of the Ethereum community. It's just, I think we've been seeing a lot of signs that people are kind of starting to realize that Ethereum is this very real and very interesting thing. That all of the work that we've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years around getting proof of stake out, getting sharding out, improving the Ethereum chain in all sorts of ways, fixing scaling and all of these issues, that stuff's actually happening, and parts of it are parts of it have already launched, right? The beacon chain is already running, but it's, the merge and kind of fully bringing Ethereum over to proof of stake is looking very close. And there's definitely a lot of people, I think, who just sort of wrote those things off as something that's just never going to happen. And well, now it is happening. And then at the same time, we're seeing the application space and people start taking things like NFTs more seriously, different kinds of DAOs more seriously, and DeFi more seriously. So there's just a lot of great progress that's been done quietly by the ecosystem over the last few years is finally being recognized.
Yeah, pretty momentous time for Ethereum. It seems like, it used to be a lot about kind of the potential and kind of big promise of this foundation layer, but now it's all becoming a reality with actual users. It seems like, so right now Ethereum has thousands of people building on it, millions of users, first signs of institutional adoption. What's kind of the big vision? Where does Ethereum go from here when people might feel okay, it already got to the moon, how much further can it go, for both of you? But maybe you can start, what's kind of the big vision?
Big vision. Well, I think from the beginning, also from the very beginning, that I got interested in this technology or blockchain itself is that I really want Ethereum to, Ethereum is really for anyone to participate to make their own solutions, right? You can create your own solutions, unlike other blockchains. And with that, I really want this to solve real problems in the world. And also with that, I really think, I keep saying to our team members and also community people that we need to look at really the next billion users of Ethereum now that this is really capable of doing a lot of things. So the real big vision is really for the next billion users to be able to create their own solution on their own, and then their people to use it. And with that, the EF actually just started the Ethereum Foundation Fellowship Program. That's to kind of work with change makers. That this is the first year of piloting air, and it's, you know, we just started it April, so meaning last month. And for cohort members in the first cohort are going to work with us or work with the community members, and they're the one that kind of like are creating solutions for really high impact projects. But then what's beyond that is really for them to inspire others, for other people to either copy or kind of be inspired and then create their own version of solutions. So all of these projects are really promising and exciting, and then I love for everyone to check that out, pick up the announcement that we are doing.
Interesting. Yeah. Sounds like a great initiative, and I love the idea of the next billion users. Really cool. Vitalik, how about for you?
No, for me, I think the next thing is definitely just getting Ethereum from where it is now to the point where it's actually doing and being used for interesting things and actually providing real value to people. And like, there's a lot of just really fascinating and interesting stuff that's been done on Ethereum. Like, you know, people have talked about the DeFi space a lot, for example, but you know, NFTs as just something that's like really managed to sort of like break out into the mainstream and get a lot of people interested. But then there's all these experiments around, you know, decentralized organizations, decentralized governance, proof of humanity type things, proof of participation, and just all of these different gadgets and just different ideas for how like people can organize and work together over the internet that are being developed on Ethereum. And it would just be great to see more of those, like, you know, actually break out and is like turn into something that's like just really helps people work together better on a large scale. And I think like just NFTs in particular, like they're an interesting case because they're like, there's a kind of speculative aspect to them, and like there is an aspect to them that's not too interesting, but then there's also this like big potential of an opportunity to allow groups of people to, who before just had no business model at all to kind of finally have a business model of some kind for the first time. Like, potentially this could be creators, it could be artists, it could be charities. So like, if that kind of vision can be made to work, and you know, things like that actually can be used just as a way to just, you know, make positive sum interactions happen that just could not happen before because there were all these useful things that just had no business models attached, and like that's already a great outcome, right? And it doesn't have to be NFTs, right? Like the beauty of Ethereum is that it's a general purpose and there's just so many experiments happening, and like any one of those experiments succeeding would be amazing.
Yeah, agree. And I'd love, Aya, to hear your thoughts on what are the main non-speculative use cases that are getting traction right now. So, I mean, obviously we've all heard about NFTs, but wondering if there's like maybe more under the radar projects that we should know about.
Yeah, so non-speculative, I can't even pronounce it, thing is that we always don't get paid attention enough. So that's one other reason why we started this fellowship program too. It is kind of like happening now more, but some of the things that you can see it through our fellowship program. And I also mentioned EtherRisk before, and then their partner Acre Africa is and
Oh, Aya? I can't, can you hear her, Vitalik? I can't hear.
I cannot hear either.
sorry about
Okay.
it. Okay. Hope
There we
can
go.
edit this later. So another project is the Giga project that is actually run by UNICEF, but now we're working with them. The project itself is to connect schools, meaning provide internet to all kids, meaning like there are still a lot of children who are not receiving proper connectivity through schools, and then you need to connect schools first, and then after connecting schools, they're like, or how you connect schools, like the Ethereum can help coordinating payments and giving transparency between internet providers and governments and also schools, and then behind even beyond that, some governments in Africa are interested in participating in staking. And then that's like kind of another way to look at the staking as an opportunity to provide some financial independence to the places or people who are not able to do that before. So those kind of things are very exciting. And yeah, that is very, thanks for asking this question, because that's really something like I think we want to show more. So we always welcome examples for us to spread if everyone has more things to share, but we're planning to share more of this throughout this year.
Very cool. Vitalik, any kind of under the radar, non-speculative project that you'd want to highlight or drive attention to?
Again, just like listing off like things that I think are cool, but that don't get enough love. I mean, ENS, I think it's just been around so long, and we don't realize that it's already a blockchain project that's providing a huge amount of value to the Ethereum ecosystem, and can easily provide value to many other ecosystems as well. And it's just been working totally fine and well for a long time. Like Status is using it for usernames and messaging, and I'm sure we'll start. They've been doing a lot of integrations with the existing DNS system lately, so I'm sure that will work well. Also, let's see. Macy, I think, is interesting. This is this blockchain-based collusion-resistant voting system that could also be used to like improve security for quadratic funding and all sorts of other use cases. But right now, it's still kind of early stage and it's still being developed. But potentially, it's something that could be used to make like something like Gitcoin grants more efficient. It could even be used to hold secure votes at some point. So we'll see how that goes as well. I think like in the future, use cases that combine together blockchains and like cryptography, like zero knowledge proofs, are going to be really powerful as well. Oh, another one, open certs, right? It's just various kinds of certifications just being put on the Ethereum blockchain, or at least the Ethereum blockchain is being used to like check that they're still valid and that they haven't been revoked. Like that's just one kind of simple and useful thing that's been running for a while.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking of like this recent bond registered by the EIB registered on Ethereum, it seems like that's kind of one very useful thing to have, like these certificates and just being able to register financial securities safely and transparently. Yeah, will be huge. Wanted to switch gears now to ETH2. And Vitalik, I wanted to learn more about this change of framing from ETH1 and ETH2 being separate chains into this merge of Ethereum proof of work with ETH proof of stake. And I don't think a lot of, or beyond kind of the like people who follow this every single day, I don't think they're aware of this kind of change in thinking of ETH2. So yeah, can you kind of explain how that shift happened?
Sure. So I think it's important to remember that the ETH2 roadmap has something that has changed quite a bit over the last few years. So I think the vision around 3 to 4 years ago actually was to just make a new chain that would change a lot of things, that would fix all of the mistakes in the existing Ethereum system, and then add proof of stake, add sharding, and finally come up with some kind of way for existing applications to move over. And I think the roadmap has evolved to become more pragmatic over time in a lot of ways. So especially as the merge has come closer, there have been a lot of these subtle changes toward emphasizing just making it a very smooth transition for developers. So just like as one example, right, like in the roadmap as it was in 2018, like it would have probably required individual application developers or just individual users to take their assets and move it over from the ETH1 chain to the ETH2 chain. But now, like, there isn't even moving from chain to chain happening, right? Like the two chains are even merging together. And the thing that we call the ETH1 chain today, like that's being renamed the execution chain, right? And the thing called the beacon chain, it's being renamed the consensus chain. And these are not going to be two separate chains, right? Right now, there's two separate chains, but after the merge, the execution chain is going to live inside of the consensus chain, right? So every beacon chain block will contain one execution chain block. So, you know, you'll literally have a chain inside a chain. And the reason why we did this is to just make the merge process as simple as possible and as smooth as possible for users, for client developers, and for contract and application developers, right? Because your experience of Ethereum as a user is not even going to change all that much between before the merge and after the merge. Like you download the software and your experience just interacting with the Ethereum chain looks very similar before and after. The only difference is that before, the Ethereum execution blocks had some proof of work attached, and after, these Ethereum execution blocks will not have any proof of work attached anymore, but instead they'll come packaged inside these beacon chain blocks. So like there's a lot of complicated technical wizardry happening in the background, but you know, from the point of view as a user, you don't even have to worry about that as much, right? And so like there's a lot of continuity between Ethereum before and Ethereum after. It's not a replacement. It's actually a fairly slow and incremental kind of upgrade where basically the entire ecosystem is being sort of taken from running on top of this older proof of work design to running on top of this a newer and very powerful proof of stake design. And then with the ability to add sharding and other lovely things on top. So, you know, basically, like post-merge Ethereum is Ethereum, right? Like there isn't this sort of like, you know, you have 1.0 ETH and 2.0 ETH. There isn't this kind of like you have a 1.0 ecosystem and a 2.0 ecosystem. It just is the Ethereum ecosystem and always will be the Ethereum ecosystem.
I mean, from the point of view of a user, like I'm like, phew, like that sounds so much simpler to not have to transfer assets, to not have to worry about like two different ETHs. And will this new proof of stake chain hold the transaction history of the old proof of work chain?
So that's the one thing that it will not, right? So basically transaction history before the merge, it will still be in this proof of work chain. And at some point, like Ethereum clients are just going to kind of delete the old code and they're not going to speak the old language anymore. And people are going to have to kind of either use old nodes or create special purpose protocols to handle really old data. So that like, I think that's just a kind of a necessary technical decision, right? Because we are trading off a couple of different factors, right? Like on the one hand, we definitely do not want Ethereum nodes to just continue becoming more unwieldy and more complex to build and run over time, right? And so if you don't want that, then like the only way to do that is to forget old things, right? To forget like older transactions, older protocol rules, and like have the newer versions of the software focus on just being able to process the chain as it is today and say as it was in the last like say year or two. But if you still want to go in and look at things that happened before, like you will be able to, right? And there's already third-party protocols, like for example, the graph is one thing that people are starting to use to look up history more efficiently. So there are going to be a lot of ways to do that if you still just need to access history for whatever reason. But it's just sort of being taken out of the scope of like the things that a node has to do in order to be an Ethereum node that's part of the network.
That's really interesting. I wonder if there's kind of I don't know, like analysis there to be made on just the immutability aspect of Ethereum. The fact that now, sure, like you have like all the previous transaction history somewhere else, but because it's not part of the like the chain at the moment, I mean, can one argument be made that, oh, like Ethereum isn't as immutable because that was erased?
I don't think it would compromise immutability, right? Because like the hash chain is still there, right? If you want to go audit it, like you can still check that, you know, every block had a hash of the previous block, and then you look up the previous block, and then that block has a hash of its own previous block, and you keep looking it up. Like there's no way whatsoever that an attacker would be able to like give you fake old blocks and convince you that they're real old blocks, because like for every one of these old blocks, if they're real, you would be able to come up with a proof, and if they're fake, like there's no way the attacker can make a proof. It is definitely like there is, I think, a real kind of cultural difference in expectations versus like something like Bitcoin, for example, right? Like where in the case of like the Bitcoin ecosystem, they really value this idea that you with a present day Bitcoin node can just go and validate every single thing that happened from day one. And in the case of Ethereum, like that's not really true, right? And if you actually want to go personally check that everything is fine, then like at some point you would have to like, you know, go back into history, use an older version of the Ethereum clients to check the older part of the chain, then use a newer version to check the newer part of the chain. And like, that is definitely a somewhat different kind of relationship between the community and the chain. And like that fact, that's true in other ways as well, right? So like, for example, with proof of stake, like we talk about weak subjectivity and how like one of the trade-offs of proof of stake is that to get the full security guarantees, you do like there is some kind of like minimum frequency, like you have to kind of log on at least once every certain number of weeks or months. And that's also something that proof of work does not have, right? So like there's definitely trade-offs being made. I mean, obviously the fact that we're doing this means that we think that the benefits are much higher than the costs. But you know, the trade-offs do exist as well, and that's fine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's two chains for different use cases. And Ethereum is, you know, the base layer for decentralized everything, as opposed to Bitcoin being decentralized, just peer-to-peer money. I think the question on like everyone's minds is just when, you know, like what's the latest on a timeline for the merge?
Well, my answer a month ago is still my answer today, which is the optimists are saying close to the end of this year. The pessimists are saying early next year. We'll see who's right.
What camp are you in?
I don't know. I mean, I hope the optimists are right, but like I'm also, you know, preparing for the pessimists being right as well.
Okay, so is it fair to say that the merge will happen beginning of next year at the latest?
I mean, that sounds reasonable.
Cool. Great. Okay, and then I want to start wrapping up by going back to the Ethereum Foundation. And this one for both of you actually came from your dad on Twitter, Vitalik. He was asking, what do you see is the current biggest weakness of the Ethereum Foundation, and what are your plans to fix it? Aya, maybe you can start.
Sure. Well, I think, I don't know if it's the biggest weakness because we are never perfect. Well, when I joined the Ethereum Foundation, there was no function to support or fund ecosystem projects. and then it's been changing. It's been also evolving, right? So we started EST and then receiving applications, and then now we actually try to be more proactive, not just receive applications. Here are the many gaps and many things to find for a specific domain. So that is going to that is more evolving. We're actually doing more of that and being more. So I guess because of the nature of this decentralized ecosystem, or like we do need to keep that at the same time, no one organization can be perfect, or no one, like this entire ecosystem shouldn't be rely on only one organization, like Vitalik wrote in one blog. So I think our solution to that is we are actually more proactively doing more third-party allocations and looking for third parties for us to allocate and then delegate the decision making of like who to be funded. So that is what we're working on, and we welcome also other foundations or other groups to do the same thing, and then no one organization should be just only one to avoid one point of failure. So that I think we keep trying to delegate or allocate the funds so that others can participate in the decision making.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And also, I to avoid kind of funding people who are just within your own ecosystem and kind of spreading it to like places where you might just have missed that there's activity going on, or that there are needs that need to be met, I guess.
And also we are never a VC, or like we are intentionally non-profit organization. So there are things that we can fund because of who we are or because of the structure. And so there should be other players to support, maybe startups or other like application layers better than that, definitely.
Got it. Perfect. And for you, Vitalik, what do you think is the EF's biggest weakness and how to fix it?
And I think one thing that the EF has been bad at, like historically, but I think especially with Aya's help has been improving at a lot already, is just like its capacity and kind of like its ability to just work with people outside of the EF in any in any form, right? Like years ago, there were definitely a lot of cases where there were just a lot of people who wanted to be able to work with Ethereum in some way, and they just needed some kind of help and support, and we would just often not really have a good answer for them. And I feel like that's something that's been improving a lot lately, but it's something that I think the Ethereum Foundation could improve more, continue its path and improve more on in the future as well. Also, again, just the Ethereum Foundation potentially, like I think needs to just sort of continually evaluate, like not just its mission, but also like what kinds of things make sense to do in the context of its mission. Like make sure to like avoid being too narrow just because historically we've had to be narrow for like say, budget reasons. Like, so for example, should the EF be more actively doing things in the application layer space? Like, I don't know, but things like that are, I think, questions that would be really interesting to have or to discuss.
That's interesting. So, I mean, to dive on that thinking a little bit, like what areas do you think, or is the EF thinking of supporting more? I guess in an attempt to maybe balance where like VC money isn't getting to, and like what spaces are needing more funding from the EF now.
I feel like we would both have answers to that question. Mine would be, well, the thing that we've already started for some time is academic collaborations, and gave someone some money to Stanford Center for Blockchain Research, some to IC3, a whole bunch to various independent academic groups, and that's led to very good results already. In terms of like how we can expand, like one option would be coming up with some way to expand the academic collaboration side to beyond kind of pure technical aspects of blockchain. So looking at economics would be one, social science issues related to blockchains might be another one. On the application layer side, like if there's types of applications that we think need to happen and that we think are just not as likely to have too many resources get to them on their own, just because there isn't like a good way to turn them into a token that gets $1 billion market cap, then like that's something that the foundation could just find ways to put resources into more explicitly.
So I always also, to add that, I always say this, EF want things to happen as organically as possible, right? Because so that this ecosystem doesn't rely on EF too much, but at the same time, there are things that don't happen organically. And that's where we think we should focus, where also only EF can do, including how, like, when we look at the community or the ecosystem, like really looking at all the different regions that are going to be part of the Ethereum ecosystem, and then maybe they're not really, their voice is not really heard enough, or so that's where we would step in and then try to listen to their voice. And so some of the stuff, because of the, everyone does things online and then pay attention to tweets, and so we try to watch the things that are being missed through this, and that includes kind of regional support, and so we started local grants program because of that.
Very cool. And we really have to kind of wrap up now. We have a minute or two left. So with that, I'm really curious to hear the projects or like side projects, maybe not even Ethereum related, that you both are working on that have you kind of the most excited. Aya, do you wanna take it?
Project that is not related to Ethereum, you said?
No. I mean, can be Ethereum. I know that I don't do anything that's not DeFi, so like, but like, yeah, like personally, like a project that you're involved in that has you like the most excited.
Oh yeah, like I am. Basically, I think I already said this in the beginning, because that's my passion to be involved. This whole thing is to really empower people who are not being empowered without this technology, and then that's including the Giga project, including all the projects you will see in the Ethereum Foundation fellowship. You will see like exciting things there, and yeah, that's really my passion. I'm very, very excited about this.
And Vitalik?
Well, one of my research interests recently has been trying to figure out the decentralized governance and decentralized public goods funding space more. That's something that I think I've been recognizing probably since at least about a year ago, that is just really important. And it's really important both for crypto projects and for like, definitely the wider world going far beyond crypto as well. So like we've been doing these experiments for a long time with Gitcoin grants, but also just trying to like see, how can we kind of take what's been done so far in things like Gitcoin grants, in things like the various DAO governance mechanisms that we've had so far, and just like see how what can be done to kind of improve that space further, and be able to govern projects and fund public goods even better.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely shout out to Gitcoin. The Defiant has been a great beneficiary of that, and so have many people in the ecosystem. And that's definitely a non-speculative use case that's taking off in Ethereum right now. It's really great to see. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but it's been an awesome conversation with you two. Thank you so much.